and he actually destroys Guy's Green Lantern ring. But amazingly, the pieces of Guy's shattered ring reform around Superman's ring finger. And Superman holds his hand up with the power ring on his finger, and Wave Rider says, "Oh no, this could very well be where Superman becomes monarch. He's a Superman, and now he has the power of a Green Lantern." Now, on top of this, Green Lanterns Hal Jordan and John Stewart fly in and carry away Guy Gardner for assaulting the President of the United States. And Hal says, "I'll see you later, Mr. President." So we see Clark in the Oval Office looking at the ring and musing on how powerful this ring is. And he just contemplates all the good things he could do with the ring. And it's just a shame that the charge will soon expire and the ring will be useless. Well, at that point, Hal returns and he says, "Mr. President, after speaking with the Guardians, it has been decided that you should be presented with this Green Lantern power battery so that you can continue to use the ring and use it to aid you in your office of the presidency." But Clark decides not to keep the ring. He takes it off. He thanks Hal and he gives a speech about power and corruption. And he says, "You know what? It's just too much power. I don't want this. So please take it back and say thanks to the Guardians." So Wave Rider has a big proverbial sigh of relief, and he sees that even in this potential storyline, Superman does not become the monarch. The story ends, this future story at least, ends on a really nice note, as in the White House, Martha and Lois and Clark are watching President Superman's latest speech, and Ma and Lois both say, "That's a wonderful speech, Clark. Probably the best you've ever given. And wouldn't Pa Kent be so proud of you if he was here to hear this speech?" And so Clark stands up and he goes to the window and he just looks out wistfully and he says, "Pa." And that's where things end. And we come back to the present day and Clark just shakes his head and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, Lois. I must have blanked out. If you'll excuse me." And he races to Smallville, where he sees that his pa is about to get run over by a tractor. And so Clark is there to save his pa. They have this really touching father-son moment. And Wave Rider says, "Amazing. Once again, Superman took something, a memory from this future possibility, and he used it to prevent a tragedy in the present. That's just incredible." So the important lesson of both of these Batman and Superman annuals is that the timeline really isn't fixed. And so for some, at least in the case of Superman, it's possible to glean some insight into the future and thus change the timeline. So this actually made things a lot more complicated for a Wave Rider, made it a lot more interesting for the reader too, in that there wasn't just one timeline for each character for a Wave Rider to follow. Now he had to explore multiple future probabilities, and in the end he knew that he couldn't find every single future possibility, but he had to rule out as many possible timelines as he could. Okay, I want to talk for a couple of minutes about the New Titans annual number 7, because this one is interesting. Wave Rider scans Nightwing and sees his future, and 10 years into the future, Nightwing is leading a whole new team of Titans. They're called the Teen Titans, and they're basically going on these small raids against a fascist government. And it culminates with them coming up against the big bad, who is known as Lord Chaos. And Lord Chaos reveals himself to be the son of Donna Troy. And Nightwing is perplexed by this because Lord Chaos is a grown man, but 10 years into the future, Donna Troy's son should only be about 10 years old. Well, Lord Chaos explains that because he is the child of what was called a Titan seed, he had the power of a god from birth, and so he decided to age himself to adulthood quite rapidly, much to his mother's dismay. Now, throughout this story, Nightwing believed that the original Titans, Starfire, Beast Boy, Cyborg, and company, were being held somewhere by this fascist government, but Lord Chaos tells him that his original Titans are all dead. They've been dead for quite a long time. And so Nightwing and his Team Titans are able to get it out of Dodge, with Nightwing certainly wanting to get revenge against Lord Chaos. And they get an order from their leader, who appears only as a pixelated image, to go back in time to kill Donna Troy's son shortly after he is born. Now, what's interesting about the New Titans annual here is that it really ties in to what was coming up in the New Titans book. The focus of the book would shift from the original group of Titans to this Teen Titans, a team which included a character who called herself Terra and looked pretty well exactly like the Terra who appeared and died in the Judas Contract storyline. And this whole concept of the Teen Titans being sent back in time to find Donna Troy and kill her child before he became the despotic Lord Chaos was a major focus of the New Titans going forward. So this is one annual where you read it on your own, and it's an interesting read, but it's a book where you really want to read what was going to happen next. And there's an interesting little piece near the end of the story where Wave Rider is musing on this future, and he thinks to himself, this future is very similar to my own. And he has this weird sense of connectedness with these Teen Titans. And it has me thinking that back in 1991, there was a seed being set for a future storyline involving Wave Rider and the Teen Titans. And indeed, it would actually play out during the 0 Hour event. So I'm thinking that this is one of those books that was on Dan Jurgens' radar when he was planning out the 0 Hour event. All right, these last two annuals I'm going to talk about are actually pretty important, not just to the main storyline itself, but what we see in these two annuals really contributed to fans' dismay and disgust with the final revelation that played out in Armageddon 2001, Part 2. I want to start off by talking about the Hawk and Dove Annual number 2, written by Carl and Barbara Kiesel. Wave Rider scans both Hawk and Dove, and he sees multiple possible future timelines for them. In some timelines, Dove has died, and Hank has tried to pick up the pieces and just live a quiet civilian life until he finally releases the full power of Hawk and takes on the Monarch. In other timelines, Hawk has died, and it's Dove who takes the fight to Monarch. What's important about this annual is that, unlike the other annuals, we actually see the heroes taking on Monarch. And so this leads Wave Rider to rule both Hawk and Dove out as potential candidates to be the Monitor. These are the two heroes who are completely written out, with Superman coming in very close second. But then there's one last future timeline which Wave Rider looks at. And in this timeline, he sees that Hank Hall and Dawn Granger actually had a daughter, and she takes on the costumed identity of Unity. Her costume bears elements of both the Hawk and Dove costumes. And as the daughter of Hawk and Dove, she has the powers of both the Lords of Order and Chaos. And so she is the one who is strong enough to take on Monarch and defeat him. And so this actually gives Wave Rider quite a lot of hope, because he sees that even if the Monarch does rise to power and the timeline plays out as Wave Rider remembers it, there's still hope that somebody will be able to take on the Monarch and take down his regime. But the fact that Wave Rider completely rules out Hawk and Dove as possible candidates to become the Monarch, that's something which is a very important point and which really stuck in readers' minds as Armageddon 2001 issue 2 played out. Alright, the last annual that I want to talk about is Justice League Europe Annual number 2. A bit of a funny book, much like the Justice League America Annual, in which Wave Rider scans each of the members of Justice League Europe. He sees a lot of shenanigans going on in all of their timelines, and he concludes that none of them will become the Monarch. Now, before Wave Rider appears at the Justice League Europe Embassy alongside Superman, who is vouching for Wave Rider's mission, Captain Atom tells the team that he needs a break. He just needs to get away from it. And in fact, that was one of the running themes in the Justice League Europe book, that while the JLE was really a lunch pail gang of various personalities who clashed with each other and didn't come across as your traditional upstanding superheroes, Captain Atom was the one who stood head and shoulders above the rest and just found himself so flummoxed by Wally West and others at different points. So here he makes a quick exit. He will come back at the end of this annual and agree to be scanned by Wave Rider. But reading this issue, it certainly gave readers the sense that maybe it was Captain Atom who was destined to become the Monarch, given that he almost conveniently found a way to step away from the team, take a break from it all, before the time traveler appeared. And in fact, folks, for those of you who have never read Armageddon 2001, that was the plan. Captain Atom was supposed to be revealed to be the hero who took that tragic fall and became the Monarch. That is a story that was supposed to play out in Armageddon 2001 issue number 2, the final chapter in the event. And it certainly made a lot of sense given what